What's up, everybody? This is Kyle Miller from the Hear Me Out Sports Podcast. Coming to you talking Week 5, start 'em, sit 'em for my wide receivers. 12 points is the threshold. Let's get to it. Okay, everyone, like I said, talking Week 5, start 'em, sit 'em for wide receivers only. We're going to go game by game and break it down for you, break down what I'm thinking. Sorry I wasn't able to get a video out last week. We had some stuff come up that I had to take care of throughout the week, so couldn't film the video, but we're back at it again here Week 5. So starting off with our Thursday night game, Indianapolis Colts, Denver Broncos. Looking at the Colts, Michael Pittman is getting his targets. He's getting his share, so I expect him to go over that 12 points and be a startable play this week. Alec Pierce has looked a lot better, especially since he's not injured anymore, fitting in with the Colts, but I don't think that this is a game where he's going to be a start. I think the Broncos defense is good enough to keep the rookie underneath that 12-point threshold. On the Broncos side, I'm going to start Jeudy and I'm going to start Sutton, probably for the first game this year that I'd recommend that. And a lot of it has to do with Javonte Williams getting hurt. So Javonte Williams was definitely the best running back in Denver this year, and now he's out for the season. I think they're going to start throwing the ball quite a bit more. So look for Sutton and Jeudy both to get enough targets and enough volume this week to start. But I'm putting KJ Hamler, their third guy, on the bench. Giants, Packers. Long story short for the Giants, all their good receivers are hurt, and I'm not going to start any of their backups. So even if Wan'Dale plays, even if Kadarius Toney plays, both of them have been dealing with some nagging injuries. I'm going to sit them. I'm going to sit everyone on the Giants. I think they're going to try to feed Saquon Barkley the ball, as well as go to their rookie tight end, Daniel Bellinger. So I'm not going to play any Giants wide receivers this week. They haven't looked good in the last couple weeks, so avoiding them. On the Packers side, I'm going to actually opt to go with the rookies this week over the veterans. So Randall Cobb, Allen Lazard, I'm sitting both of those guys. But I'm going to start Romeo Doubs, who's looked better every single week, and he seems to have some chemistry with Aaron Rodgers right now, and hopefully has built up some trust with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm starting Doubs, and I'm starting Christian Watson. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers fully trusts Christian Watson yet, but it appears that Matt LaFleur wants to get Watson the ball. They've got designed plays from screens and runs. I mean, he had a rushing touchdown last week. So I think that Christian Watson's going to have some design plays go to him, and then a couple others that he'll get. So give me Dobbs, give me Watson, both as starting plays this week for the Packers. Steelers, Bills. Steelers secondary is pretty banged up. I think they're going to be trailing a lot in this game, and I think they're going to have to throw. And I think it's actually a huge boon for the wide receivers fantasy-wise to have Kenny Pickett as the starter. So a good little bump for them. Out of the three main Steelers receivers, I'm starting Deontay Johnson. He's been proven to be their number one guy so far. I'm starting George Pickens this week because of what appears to be some chemistry between him and Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, as soon as he entered the game last week, I think that Pickens had a 38% target share. So, I mean, a little more than one in every three passes that Pickett threw was going to George Pickens, and he caught a bunch of them too. So give me Pickens, give me Deontay Johnson against a pretty injured Buffalo Bills secondary. As starting plays this week. Chase Claypool just kind of hasn't been there much this year, so I'm not starting him this week, and I'm probably not going to start him until he proves that he's got something left in the tank. On the Bills side, have to start Stephon Diggs. I'm going to talk to that. I'm sitting Gabriel Davis. I told everyone at the beginning of the year Gabriel Davis wasn't going to be the guy that everyone thought he was. That analysts were talking about, oh, big breakout year. Nope. He's got 5 touchdowns in his last 5 games, but that counts the one playoff game that he had 4 touchdowns in last year. So he's got 1 touchdown this year so far, and he really hasn't looked like anything more than the deep threat that every once in a while he'll boom for you, but more times than not, he's going to be a sit. So I'm sitting him this week. Stephon Diggs and Isaiah McKenzie are my 2 starts. I think Isaiah McKenzie is more of the underneath guy that Josh Allen likes to kind of check it down to and throw to. So I like McKenzie as a start, and I like Stephon Diggs for obvious reasons as a start. Chargers-Browns is the next game. Chargers side, Keenan Allen, even if he plays this week, I'm not starting him. The Browns defense is pretty solid. So I'm not trusting the hobbled Keenan Allen, even if he does play, to produce. And then I think that the Browns secondary is going to be focusing in on Mike Williams and is going to kind of try to prevent him from beating them over the top. So I don't expect Mike Williams to have a great game either. Instead, I got DeAndre Carter for the Chargers. He seems to be that third guy, better than Josh Palmer, better than Jalen Guyton. So give me DeAndre Carter actually as the one start this week for the Chargers. On the Browns side, I'm going to give Amari Cooper another chance. He had a bad week last week, but before that, he looked pretty good. So I'm going to start Amari Cooper this week against Chargers, and I'm sitting Donovan Peoples-Jones. The Browns are going to try to run the ball a lot. Chargers defense so far has improved. that they've fixed any of the issues last year they had with stopping the run. So I expect the Browns to run the ball a lot. Bears-Vikings. I don't even want to talk about the Bears. It's one of the worst offenses, especially passing, that I've seen this year, despite their record. So sitting every Bears receiver until further notice. On the Vikings side, give me Justin Jefferson as a must-start every week, so not going to talk about him too much. And then Adam Thielen, I like that they're finally getting him involved. I was kind of surprised early on in the season, the first 2 games, that they weren't really throwing his way. The last 2 games, he's been a lot more involved, so I like Adam Thielen to start. KJ Osborne, leave him on the bench. Not going to need 3 receivers to beat the Bears this week. Lions-Patriots. So the Lions have been able to score pretty well this year. If the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown starts, not just starts, but if he plays this week, I'm going to start him. Josh Reynolds also had a really good week last week, and I think that Jared Goff likes going to him, so I'm going to start Josh Reynolds. DJ Chark I have on the bench. New England Patriots, going to rock with Devontae Parker and Nelson Aguilar. I really hope that this week is Bailey Zappi. I don't cheer for injuries for anyone at all, but Brian Hoyer, first of all, it looks like Mac Jones is not recovered enough from his high ankle sprain to play, so I expect him to be out. And then Brian Hoyer obviously suffered a concussion. He hasn't been cleared as of yet. If he gets cleared, then, I might change some of these rankings, but as of right now, I'm expecting Bailey Zappi to be the quarterback for the Patriots, and I think that's actually going to help their receivers. Watching him in college, he likes to take those downfield shots, and he's for real. I think that people will be surprised. Zappi looked fine in relief last week without even expecting to play, so I hope that Zappi plays and kind of shows what he can do. And if he does, I got Devontae Parker and Nelson Aguilar as starts for the Patriots, especially against a terrible Lions defense. And then Jacoby Myers, actually, if he does play, I know he sat last week. If he does play, I'm still sitting him. I think it's going to be mostly Devontae and Nelson Aguilar this week. Seahawks Saints. Seahawks, I like what I've seen from DK Metcalf over the last 3 games, but I'm actually sitting him this week. The Saints secondary has been good, especially against deep plays. They've been shutting those down all season. DK Metcalf kind of feasts on those deep balls. So I don't have DK as a start this week. I'm sitting him, but I'm starting Tyler Lockett. He's going to get enough volume underneath to get him over that 12-point threshold. On the Saints side, I told everyone at the beginning of the year, believe me or not, that Chris Olave was going to be the Saints' number 1 wide receiver. I don't care if Michael Thomas is hurt. That's an excuse. And even if that is the excuse, I'm still right. Chris Olave is their number 1. He's the guy that gets the most targets, and he's the guy that has looked the best by far out of the receiving corps. So I got Chris Olave starting against a bad Seahawks secondary. I got Jarvis Landry also starting. I think Andy Dalton, if he plays, will be better than if Jameis Winston can come back. So Andy Dalton didn't look great, but he looked fine. He looked adequate against the Vikings last week in London. So I expect him to be, good enough to help Olave and Landry break over that threshold. But Michael Thomas, even if he does play, I'm still sitting him. I don't trust him with any of these lingering injuries on the lower body. Dolphins, Jets, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. I'm going to start them every week, regardless of who's playing quarterback and regardless of who they're playing against. Those guys are for real. But I'm going to sit Cedric Wilson. He hasn't really proved that he's capable of doing much in this Dolphins offense yet. A little bit disappointing. I thought he'd be at least of note as a third receiver, but he hasn't been so far. So sitting Cedric Wilson. I'm thinking of Garrett Wilson on the Jets side, who I am starting. I'm going to start Garrett Wilson. I'm going to start Corey Davis. Zach Wilson seems to have a lot of chemistry with Corey Davis and basically none with Elijah Moore. So even though I think Elijah Moore is a better player, I'm sitting Elijah Moore and I'm starting Corey Davis, and I'm also starting Garrett Wilson on the Jets side. I think that they're going to be trailing a lot. I like the Dolphins' defense. I think they're legit. They're extremely good, but I think the Jets are going to throw the ball enough that Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis are going to be stardoms this week. Falcons, Bucks. So Falcons, give me Drake London. I know he had a kind of a down game last week, but especially with Cordero Patterson hurt, even if that doesn't directly lead to more passes because the running back's injured, that will help as far as Marcus Mariota not having Cordero to check the ball down to dump it off to. So I think Drake London will have enough targets this week to push him over, and that's the only receiver I'm probably starting all year for the Falcons. But give me Drake London. On the Bucs side, reports today are that Tom Brady and his wife Giselle are both hiring divorce attorneys, and I don't cheer for divorce for anyone. I'm hop into this issue kind of in a different video and my take on that, but I think that if anything, this is going to just make Tom Brady mad, and mad Tom Brady typically plays pretty well. Played well last week against the Chiefs. They just got beat. But I got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They're 1 and 2 guys, especially if Godwin especially, of course, if he doesn't play, then he's not a stardom. But Chris Godwin, hopefully he plays this week, and I got both of those guys as starts. I think they're both going to have really good games against a pretty bad Falcons team. But I'm sitting Julio Jones, who after week 1 has been basically nothing, and Russell Gage, who's been a disappointment as a Bucs third receiver. Titans Commanders. Treylon Burks, they've been trying to get him the ball. They've been trying to run up some design plays for him, and things just haven't worked out great yet for him on the Titans. But I think this is the week that things start to click. The Commanders' defense isn't terrible, but it's not great. It's kind of just mediocre, and I think Treylon Burks will do enough this week to warrant a start, and that's the only receiver I'm going to sit Nick Akinneh there on the Titans. On the Commanders side, Curtis Samuel has had the most targets and the most volume every game for the Commanders. For whatever reason, Carson Wentz really likes him. Curtis Samuel is definitely a talented and athletic guy, so I'm not bagging on Curtis Samuel. I'm just a little bit confused at the lack of use of Terry McLaurin. I'm starting Curtis Samuel. I'm starting the rookie Jahan Dotson. I think Dotson finds end zone this week and kind of gets back to those ways. So give me both those guys to start, and I'm sitting Terry McLaurin, even though I think he's the best receiver currently on the Commanders. Texans-Jags, AFC South rivalry game. So Brandon Cooks of the Texans, he's kind of been quarterback-proof his entire career. Even if he doesn't have a lot of catches or a lot of yards in the games, it seems like he finds the end zone on those games, so he pretty much always warrants a start as long as he's playing. So give me Brandon Cooks as a start, and that's it on the Texan side. On the Jags side, I'm sitting Marvin Jones Jr. this week. I'm starting Christian Kirk, and I'm starting Zay Jones. I think that they'll build a pretty early lead throwing the ball, and then they're just going to try to run the ball out the rest of the game. So I expect the Jags to win pretty easily, and I think Christian Kirk and Zay Jones are both going to have good games. Niners, Panthers. Panthers are my team, as everyone knows. I love the Panthers. Diehard Panther fan, but extremely upset with how their season's gone so far on the offensive side of the ball. Matt Rule should be fired. Ben McAdoo should be fired. Anyone who even would tie their name to that offense should be fired. They've been terrible. I keep predicting the DJ Moore breakout game hasn't happened yet. So against it, this is the week it's going to happen, and here's why. The San Francisco 49ers defense is unbelievably good, and they've been dominant all year, and DJ Moore's been bad, and the Panthers offense has been bad. And so this is the kind of game that, for whatever reason, things break one way. So give me DJ Moore to finally have a good game, but I'm going to sit Robbie Anderson and all the other Panthers receivers. On the Niner side, Deebo Samuel's the only guy I trust with Jimmy Garoppolo, or even Trey Lance, but with this Niners offense, Deebo's the only guy I trust week in and week out on that Niners receiving core, including George Kittle. Deebo's still the only guy I trust. So give me Deebo to start. I'm sitting Juwan Johnson. I'm sitting Brandon Ayuk. Cowboys-Rams. CeeDee Lamb is a must-start as long as Cooper Rush is in the lineup. Cooper Rush has been awesome for the Cowboys, hasn't lost a start, as everyone knows, and CeeDee Lamb has been a big beneficiary of Cooper Rush playing. He's getting a lot of volume, a lot of catches, a lot of yards, and he's looked good with Cooper Rush. So start CeeDee Lamb, but I'm going to sit Noah Brown. I'm going to sit Michael Gallup. I don't think that Cooper Rush can be able to support 2 starting receivers against the Rams defense this week. Rams side, you start Cooper Kupp because even if he only averages like 2 yards a catch, that's not true, but if he only averaged 2 yards a catch, he's still getting, I think, 19 or 20 targets in this last week. So it's kind of insane. Volume alone will always push Cooper Kupp into the starting position. Allen Robinson is washed. He looks terrible this year. I was not super high on him, but I thought he'd do decent. I thought he'd be a good enough receiver to own in fantasy. And as of right now, I'd recommend just if you have a guy on the waivers you can pick up, cut Allen Robinson. He's been terrible, so get rid of him. Ben Skoranek is 100% hit or miss based on volume, and I'm not starting him either. So Cowboys defense is for real. If they've proven nothing else this year, it's that their defense is pretty dominant. So I like that Cowboys pass rush, especially with Micah Parsons. Only starting Cooper Kupp on the Rams. Last undefeated team, the Eagles. They're playing in the Bird Bowl against the Cardinals. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, I think will have good games against the Cardinals D. Cardinals D hasn't been good. The only time they've looked okay was against my Carolina Panthers, who have one of the worst offenses in the NFL this year. So A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, both going to have good games for the Eagles. Cardinal side, Hollywood Brown has been, dominating the volume, dominating the targets from Kyler Murray over the last 3 weeks. And it's going to continue here, even if the Eagles win by a bunch and their defense plays great. I think Marquise will have enough touches to get him over that 12-point threshold. I'm definitely starting him this week. Rondell Moore, just getting back in the lineup last week. They had design plays to him. They were trying to get him the ball. He's just not fully back in the swing of things. And they played against a good Carolina defense last week. So I'm sitting Rondell Moore again against a solid Eagles team, and Greg Dortch I'm also sitting, even though he's had a couple good weeks so far this year. I think that Moore and Dortch kind of take away each other's opportunities, and neither of them are going to be stardoms for this week against the Eagles. Bengals Ravens, AFC North, kind of important game here early on to see who can kind of grasp control of that division. Bengals, I'm starting Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. The Ravens secondary has been pretty bad the last 3 weeks, and I don't expect it to get any better. Their team's not healthy, and their defense is pretty bad. So starting both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and I'm sitting Tyler Boyd, their slot receiver, really solid. Ravens side, starting Rashad Bateman. Bengals defense isn't as good as the defenses that the Ravens have played in the last couple weeks, so I expect their receivers to have a better game. Rashad Bateman is going to be a stardom this week. Mark Andrews is always going to be the dominant guy there on the Ravens pass catchers. So give me Rashad Bateman as the one receiver I'm starting this week for the Ravens. I'm sitting Devin Duvernay. And then the last game of the week is Raiders and Chiefs. A semi-important game here to see if the Raiders can salvage their season early on, because it kind of looks, if they didn't win this last week especially, it kind of would have been all for a lost season. So Raiders, if Hunter Renfrow plays, I'm starting him. The Chiefs defense, especially their secondary, hasn't been great this year, so starting Hunter Renfrow. I'm definitely starting Devontae Adams no matter what. But I'm sitting Matt Collins, even though he had a breakout game a couple games ago. Kansas City Chiefs, hit or miss on the receivers. The only guys I really trust on their offense are Travis Kelce. Honestly, just Travis Kelce, because the running backs are touchdown dependent, it seems like. I'm starting Juju, though, this week. I think that the Raiders' defense is bad enough to allow Juju to have a good game. So give me Juju as the one start on the Chiefs side. I'm sitting Mecole, and I'm sitting MVS this week for the Chiefs. And again, that's the last game that I'm going to be talking about, obviously, because that's every game on the slate for Week 5. As always, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, go to our YouTube page, like, subscribe. We're pushing out content every week, and we've paid out some stuff. We haven't had to pay a lot, honestly, because we've been right on a bunch of our predictions, which is the whole point, but paid out a couple league dues just to help people out. And so far in our free jersey league, I'm in first place, of course. No surprise there. So hopefully things keep going the right way on that end. As always, I listen to my own advice. I'm not going to tell you guys to do one thing and then do something totally different. So I'm here to be scolded. I'm here to be yelled at. I'm here to be blamed. If you put a bunch of money on a guy and it doesn't work out and your wife's mad at you, then just tell her that, Kayana over there, that expert at HMO Sports, blew it, and maybe I can throw you guys some cash to help cover that down. So as always, we appreciate every time when people tune in. I'm very appreciative of you viewers, and I want to hear your guys' feedback. Hit us up with any questions you have. We're quick to respond. And as always, when in doubt, hear me out.